So, I've been working on the latest chapter in my comic series Doomsayer, as I always am, and I'm about to hit 20 chapters, which is a pretty beefy number, all things considered. And you might be thinking, 20? That's rookie numbers. You gotta pump those numbers up. But do understand that this is on top of a full-time job and a weekly upload schedule on YouTube, and I'm literally doing everything myself, so please subscribe. But I've gone back and watched some videos relating to my personal favorite series, Berserk, and came across a few in the genre of artistic evolution. There are, of course, ones dedicated to analyzing other series. I find the ones covering Togashi of Hunter x Hunter and Yu Yu Hakusho fame quite interesting, especially considering that his styles seem to kind of degrade over time, but it's like still not bad, it's just different. Dude needs someone to edit his scripts though, like Jesus Christ. Anyway, since this is going to be year 5 of producing Doomsayer, overall year 6 actually, of pursuing this project, I thought this might be a fun little anniversary style video. Also, I need something that's not going to clog our production time since I'm producing this video right before the holidays, so welcome to my artistic evolution. Okay, so before I even begin looking back at my artwork, I should probably give a bit of a series overview for those of you who haven't read it or just have no interest in checking it out at all and just like my YouTube videos alone, which is fine. It's intentionally not a series for everyone, so I guess let me explain the plot a little bit before I get into the artwork. So, Doomsayer is a dark fantasy epic with an ensemble cast that takes place on the fictional sky continent of Celestos. There are 4 distinct territories. Celestos, which is 1/4 of the territory because the alleged descendants of Celestia, the sky goddess of the Celestian religion, ruled over the land with divine right, but over time the territories were ceded to other political powers. Celestos is the superpower of the world, the Murica of this fictional planet, if you will. There's Joki in the east that had an alliance with Celesto for 100 years at the start of the story, and they are known for their industrial production of power metal. Power metal is a substance that can be used by certain people known as mage bloods that can access powers using these tools as conduits. There's Axana in the south, friendly to Celestos and Joki, but mostly isolationists. And of course, the kingdom of Sinsage in the north, ruled over by the Faceless Ones. These creatures that live for 300 or so years can survive in brutal climates. Your key players in the story are Queen Celeste VII, Anna Everett, Emperor Hiro Oshida and his daughter Mai, King Asenberg, a mysterious cult leader named Bartholomew, a revolutionary family called the Solomons, and a bunch more characters that are all wrapped up in various political and even sci-fi conspiracies. Okay, so I guess that's the overview. It was a bit of a mouthful, but, you know, dark fantasy has a tendency to get a little complicated. Especially considering that if I were to really dumb down the specific genre of dark fantasy, they're essentially political dramas with tits and swords. In other words, fucking awesome. What can I say? I got weird taste. So, now that we got a bit of an idea of the story, let's begin the art analysis with the hideous early days. Ugh. I hate this era, even when I was drawing it. And also, damn, I only did 3 chapters this year? Slacking. Well, I did start in the middle of the year, but this is one thing that has remained consistent throughout this series' production, the glacial pace of releases. I can argue that I'm trying to make things look and read as good as possible, but these first few chapters are rough. Even the map isn't that great. This castle is atrocious, even having been redrawn at some point, somehow remaining poor in quality. So, the original Chapter 1 of this series, as well as part of Chapter 2, was produced traditionally. At a certain point, I decided to redraw 90% of the first chapter and some of the second chapter for the sake of consistency, more so across image fidelity rather than actual quality of work, because it still looks pretty damn bad. You can still see some remnants of my earlier pen and paper work, like Solomon rallying his troops here. I should also note that it wasn't until I switched from Photoshop to Clip Studio Paint that word balloons became consistently shaped. Yeah, I know, they look kinda skewed. Backgrounds from this era are extremely minimal and poorly rendered. Anatomy, which I still struggle with and probably always will, is just straight up bad. Like, disproportionate figures and jank-ass hands abound. But the only way to get to the good drawings is to work through the bad drawings. And 2021 had a lot of bad drawings. I think my faces from around this era were always just a little off. I don't even know if I actually got better. They're like different now. And I like the way they look now more. So I guess that's a good thing. So, at a certain point, I decided to ask my Discord members, join the Discord, by the way, link in the description. They had read my series and wanted to point out anything that improved as they read it. One of my mods, Icy Love, shout out to her, said that my poses look a lot less stiff and that there's more confidence in my line work, which I can see, but there are also a lot more lines and details in general. So yeah, that's certainly one thing I noticed looking back in the earlier days. Everything was a little bit more simplified. Also, I was literally learning how to draw digitally with this comic. I actually only got a drawing tablet in late 2020, so you guys are literally looking at the start here. I should note that the earlier drawings of the female characters aren't as curvaceous and exaggerated as I like in my later illustrations, and the dudes aren't all roided the fuck out like they are now. I may not be technically great at anatomy, but I think my stylizations being pushed more actually helps the comic get a bit of a more unique identity. So by chapter 3, I think my backgrounds have gotten a little bit better, and I'm starting to get the hang of working in grayscale, and the story's starting to move and get away from setting up, so that's good too. Overall, 2021 was more of an awkward learning experience in my comics journey rather than an exertion of skill. Humble beginnings, I suppose. A few rookie mistakes, but they're always bound to happen. So moving on to 2022, where I made chapters 4 to 9. Wow, 6 chapters. Believe it or not, that's a pretty good year for me. I feel like in this era, I was trying to push my backgrounds to be more consistent and detailed so that the reader would have a better understanding of the world and the spaces these scenes were taking place in. There also seems to be an attempt at better cinematography, for lack of a better word, that word being composition. Composition referring to the layout of an image where things are in relation to everything else and how and why it's shown the way it's shown. You know, like a close-up for a dramatic character moment, wide shot for a big explosion, overhead shot to spice things up, mid-shot for a fight scene, that kind of thing. I call it cinematography, because that encompasses the series and pacing of these various camera angles. I always viewed panels in a comic as cuts in a scene of a movie. That's my personal approach. Having said that, the attempt was there. The execution, not so much. We still run into some rookie mistakes from this era as well, most prominently a few dreaded walls of text. Personally, I don't think I'd change the script if I were to do it over again. Rather, I'd add a few more pages, breaking it up a bit. I actually quite like the monologue Queen Celeste VII gives on the futility of martyrdom. It really encompasses her character's holier-than-thou, might-is-right worldview, but I should have approached the comic pages differently. By chapter 8, some of these pages are getting more time and care and, of course, detail. I feel like I keep going back and forth between going for a full render and a more simplified approach. Only certain panels are feeling like complete images, but the paneling has gotten a little more interesting, starting to stray away from playing it safe, especially in action scenes. The anatomy and perspective are still kicking my ass here. Like, they got hands, bro. I mean, they still kick my ass now, but back then I was eating shit like, fuck, this looks bad. I improved, but not enough. By chapter 9, I feel like I was starting to come a bit into my own, and I got to flex on one thing I know I'm good at: creatures. And don't worry, current readers, you'll be seeing a lot more creatures soon. I was starting to better understand using screen tones, textures, and grayscales here too. I ended 2022 on a higher note than last year. Well, it was a bit of a low note for Melissa here, but we're not talking about the plot in this video. I still can't draw buildings for shit. So moving into 2023, we have chapters 10 to 13. 4 chapters. Damn, that's solid for me. But it's a bit more justified because this is when I went back to redraw chapters 1 and some of 2, so I guess 5.5 chapters this year. So the backgrounds are getting more detailed, the grayscale shading and screen tone usage is getting more prominent, the panels are getting more cinematically crafted, and most importantly, the women are getting thicker. I also feel like there was almost a momentous shift in chapter 11 in terms of the way I render people. Like, the facial structures start to feel a bit more realistic, the line work feels more intentional, even the posing of characters feels less stiff. It was sort of at this point I realized that unless I'm trying to do something more abstract, every page should have at least one panel with a visible background so that the reader never loses the sense of where we are. It also helps again with that more cinematic feel I'm trying to approach. I think Tatsuki Fujimoto is a master of that, of giving his manga that sort of cinematic feeling. Like, look at his stuff and you'll know what I mean when I say that. The anatomy and perspective are slightly better. Still shit, but slightly better here. And the shading, particularly in chapter 11, which is a really big character moment for Anna, really helps to sell the drama of the sequence. Around chapter 12, I feel like I'm reaching that sort of signature stylized thickness in my female characters, and things are starting to look closer to what's in my head than not. There are still a few rookie mistakes, notably a stray wall of text or two, but I'm starting to really understand how to use grayscale and screen tones in this story. I hate this drawing of Alyssa, though. I hate it so much. Maybe it's like the teeth, but it gives like sort of a Ken Penders-ish feeling, which is something I don't want anyone to ever say about my art, especially not myself. I don't know what the hell happened there. By the last chapter of this year, cross-hatching is really starting to become more prominent, something that I feel like I can't not do anymore. I don't know, once you get a well cross-hatched image out of your own hands, you'll be chasing that high for the rest of your life. It also has become something of a bit of a visual identity for the comic in the newer chapters, especially the ones I'm working on now. I think I may have gone a bit overboard on some panels, actually, but in this era, I used it a bit more sparingly. I've also noticed that all of the women's asses have gotten larger in the last chapter. Good work, Past John. Good work. Moving on to the 2024 chapters. Last year, at the time of recording this, or 2 years ago now, when this video goes up, whatever. 2024. We got 14, 15, and 16. Only 3 chapters. I wonder why. Oh yeah, YouTube popped off a little. Just a little, but I think I neglected the comic somewhat that year in favor of YouTube. It's kind of tough doing both. And a full-time. Maintaining personal relationships? Throw that shit out. Anyway, this is when I started to try to make the characters look a bit more realistic, especially in the faces. I think a side-by-side comparison of this portrait of Mai and that one of Alyssa I hate from the previous year is in order. You see what I mean? It's more of an attempt towards realism than the older one. The environments, while still shit, are getting a bit more detailed, even if those details are bad. I'm really starting to commit to the grayscaling screen tones around now. I also really like this drawing of the Queen. I wonder why. There is a notable dip in the art in Chapter 16, which is when I switched to Clip Studio Paint partway through, but by the end of it, I think I managed to take advantage of the software and do things I otherwise couldn't do with Photoshop. I mean, yeah, the software literally designed to make comics is probably better than the software designed to edit photos for making comics. Who would have thought? Not me, apparently. If you want to know exactly where I switched, it's the page of Emma and Yui shaking hands was the last one that was done in Photoshop, and everything after that is Clip Studio Paint if you want to see the exact moment I switched. Yeah, the switch to Clip Studio Paint, that's probably why there are so few chapters this year. Plus, I was focusing on YouTube a little bit more. So, 2025. Last year, or this year when I'm recording it, but whatever. Last year. What did I get done? Chapter 17, 18, 19, and most of 20. 3.5. Not bad. I'm going to try to get them out bi-monthly this year, but we'll see. We're aiming for 6 chapters this year. Maybe 7 if 20 gets done in time. This was mostly just getting comfortable with Clip Studio Paint. No bullshit, my architecture has improved dramatically. Seriously, compare these 2 castles. It's like night and day. Could still be better, though. I also feel like I rein myself in when it comes to the scripts. Sometimes characters yap for too damn long, making the quality of the words weaker. It's sort of like that whole less is more saying, you know what I mean? There's a little bit more lore expansion and world building in these chapters, so that's great for people who actually read the comics. Read them? You mean you guys don't just look at them? Who would do that? I also figured out how to use Clip Studio Paint's word balloon tool, so no more wonky bubbles. Oh yeah, and this is around the time I decided to stop holding back and really push the gore and eroticism in the comic. I think it's better to not be subtle. I, for one, much prefer just owning things. Also, Chapter 17 might have my favorite drawing of the Queen so far. It's a good thing I really like drawing Anna and Queen Celeste because they are the main characters after all. Imagine not liking drawing your main characters. Yeah, but I remember this drawing took forever, dude. It took so long. Oh yeah, I also like this panel of Melissa a lot too. Fun fact, she was supposed to be a one-off side character. I just liked her so much that she's part of the cast. By Chapter 18, dare I say, I think the art is actually borderline acceptable. Almost there. I'm fully committed to using screen tones and cross-hatching and the characters feel more real. Like, just look at this side-by-side of Anna and Emma drawings. Like, I believe that is what the kids refer to as a glow-up. They still say that? I don't know. Is that on fleek? Showing my age right now. Anyway, honestly, jumping from even just the redraws of Chapter 1 to Chapter 19, there's an overwhelmingly dramatic improvement. Probably because I kept doing the thing. Like, remember, the only way to get good at doing something is to do it. So do it. You know how many times in various places I see people asking the dreaded question to indies and pros alike? How do I know if I'm good enough to start? You aren't. That's the truth. But the only way to start is to start. Just fucking make the damn thing. Who gives a shit if it isn't as beautiful as a Takahiko Inoue manga or a Mobius poster? Bangers, by the way. Those guys are awesome. What's stopping you? Yourself? What you gonna do? AI generate it? That's for bitches. And if you watch my channel, I know you ain't no bitch. You will improve by mileage only, inevitably. Like, say, you go to the gym for the first time and get a good workout in. Are you going to look like prime Schwarzenegger when you go home that day? No, of course not. You need to just keep showing up. Showing up is more than half the battle, and I know you're a fighter. Now, I'd show you the most recent pages I worked on to show you where I'm at now, but it's a sex scene. So, YouTube doesn't like the beauty of two people expressing their love for one another. Also, yeah, that is kind of inappropriate for this mainstream site. So, here's the last safe for work page. Text removed for spoilers. Slowly but surely, I'll get decent, and you can too, but only if you start. So stop waiting and start doing. Okay, damn, this kind of turned into a bit of a motivational speech by the end here, but hey, the proof is in the pudding, or something. Honestly, I don't think anyone thinks my older art is better than my newer art, but maybe there are people that do think that. Well, what do you think of my artistic evolution? Did I actually improve, or are there just more lines and I'm trying to rationalize the thought of more lines equal more good? But that's going to do it for me. If chapter 20 is out by the time this video is out, go read it. If not, stay tuned. It should be out soon. If you like this video, please like, comment, subscribe, and hype, if hype is still a thing. If you want to reach out to me more directly for fan mail, fan art, hate mail, cosplay, content suggestions, or girlfriend applications, send me a line at deviantartsubmissions@gmail.com. Patreon, shout out to the patrons, $1 a month. Check it out. Check out another video. Read Doomsayer, especially if you like this video and haven't. And until next time, thank you for watching this video.